In Isaiah 28, the 10th verse, we learn the Father's commanded study method when it explains to us, study everything in the Word, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. Testing, testing. What a beautiful day. All praise the Most High Yah. Shalom, shalom, family. Peace unto you. Shalom, mishpachah. Welcome to PUP, Precept Upon Precept Scripture Study, where we'll ask the question, what does the Word say? After my suspension on Facebook, I realized, Yah willing, I'd like to go over some of the lessons that I shared there. Only this time, we can go over them a little bit more in depth, precept upon precept. So let's begin. Actually, before we start, I just want to apologize for having to remove and repost parts 1 and 2. I was having some problems with the soundtrack overpowering my vocals, and I appreciate those who brought that to my attention. It's regretful that I'm going to lose the wonderful comments that were already left, but Yah willing, hopefully I won't have that problem going forward. Also, now that I have a better idea what I'm doing, I can explain how this series will be organized. Generally, the topics will come from my book, lessons, some of which I've already posted on my now suspended Facebook account, but I may touch on some new areas such as current events. I'd like to do a lesson on the war in Iran and show what scripture has to say about it. If anyone has a topic they'd like to suggest, please leave it in the comments. But basically, each topic in this series will begin with a black thumbnail for part 1, then yellow, part 2, and if needed, part 3, and additional parts will be in white. I'd also like to ask if it's possible to get some help spreading these videos around. After being taken off from Facebook, I'm only going to be able to share there with others' help. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and continue where we left off on the topic of the second Exodus and what does the Word say about it. While there's so much involved in this topic, I'd just like to focus on the Ezekiel 20 verses that we left off in the last video. And if needed, there's always part 4. So let's go ahead and take a look at that Ezekiel 20. And let's read verses 33 to 37. As I live, says Adonai Yahuwah, surely with a mighty hand and with an outstretched arm and with fury poured out, will I rule over you, and I will bring you out from the people, and I will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered, with a mighty hand, and with an outstretched arm, and with fury poured out. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there I will plead with you face to face. Now we got to stop right here at verse 35, because that's a powerful statement. You know, I was taught growing up that no one would ever see the Father's face until we got to the kingdom. But this is a prophecy that takes place prior to the second coming of the Messiah. And verse 35 is explaining that we will be face to face with our Father the same way how Abraham was face to face with him on the top of Mount Sinai. Verse 36, like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Mizraim, so will I plead with you, says Adonai Yahuwah. And I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. And this is also a powerful verse right here. Family, what we're seeing is the new covenant, the renewed covenant being fulfilled. The point in time when the Father inscribes his law on our hearts. A thing that is often said right now has happened already. For those who have my book, starting on page 196, you'll find I go into great detail on this topic. I also talk about why this original covenant location will most likely be the place of the renewing of the covenant. Also find this video, The Dragon versus the Gathering, on my channel. And in verse 38, this touches on the topic that is sensitive to many right now in this awakening, as we see Israelites preaching false doctrine and hate. The Father's not going to be slack with dealing with them. Did he not deal with the Israelites at the foot of Mount Sinai when Aaron was told to gather the Levites and get their swords, and 3,000 were dealt with on the spot? So again, in the day of the gathering, in the day of the second Exodus, will the rebels be purged out, says Adonai Yahuwah. So let's wrap this up by looking at a couple precepts. And I want to draw some attention real quick to verse 33. And this is language that you hear often throughout the gathering prophecy. The Father mentions that it's with a mighty hand of his outstretched arm, and it's with fury being poured out. When we think about the first Exodus, what type of fury poured out do we recall? Because it'll be that same way when he does this again. Which is why I believe the fall of Babylon will be about the approximate time that the gathering begins. When the Father reaches out to gather his scattered, it's going to be in upheaval. It's going to be in the midst of turbulent times. It's going to be in the midst of judgment, tribulations upon the nations which have dealt harshly for many generations with his people. Wait a minute, wait, let me go get a precept. Don't believe me, let me get a precept. Let's go to Joel 3 verses 1 and 2. We're going to read verse 1, and then we're going to look at the reasons, the actual reasons that Yah sends the wrath. Verse 1 says, behold, in those climactic days and at that time, when I restore the fortunes of Judah and Jerusalem. This is the restoration of Yasharel. And the Father goes on to explain the reasons why he sends the wrath to begin with. Verse 2, highlighting the fact that this is Armageddon, the valley of Jehoshaphat being mentioned. The first reason says, hostile to my people. The second reason says, for their treatment of my people, my inheritance, Israel. And number 3, whom they have scattered among the nations. And verse 4, very telling, says, encroached on my land and divided it up. And you'll find a precept for that in Luke 21:24. But it's very clear here. We have the gathering of Yasharel. The second Exodus will lead to the Father gathering his people and punishing those who have dealt harshly with them for many generations. And so let's touch on the last two precepts to round this out. In Hebrews 8 9 to 11, and Jeremiah 31, verses 32 to 34. In the Hebrews chapter 8, we see a framework of the covenant. We see who it's with, and it shows us when it will be inscribed on our hearts. And in Jeremiah 31, starting in verse 31, behold, the days are coming, says Yahuwah, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, my covenant which they broke, though I was a husband to them, says Yahuwah. In verse 33, we see the covenant being made with Yasharel when it says, but this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, says Yahuwah, I will put my law in their minds, and I will write it on their hearts, and I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. No more shall every man teach his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahuwah, for they all shall know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them, says Yahuwah. And I will forgive their iniquity, and their sin I will remember no more. Mishpachah, we're living in a day that people want things one way, but it's the other way. There's many prophecies written and spoken of, but still yet to be fulfilled. Those related to the second Exodus are among them, yet to be realized. Things like the restoration of Yasharel, and things like the renewed covenant. Right here in Jeremiah, we are just told, when these things come to pass, when Father has written his law on our hearts, that no man will ever need to teach another, a thing that I am right at this very moment doing. Thank you for joining me. When the Father's outstretched hand comes to gather his scattered people, and his fury is poured out, I hope to see you in the gathering, in the second Exodus, the woman in the wilderness prophecy. Yah bless. Family, this subject could fill 10 videos, but we touched on some of the most key verses and precepts. Still, many questions like who will be gathered, how, and a time frame for this coming event have not been answered. And so, Yah willing, join me again next week for part 4 on the Sabbath, and we'll do a questions and answers style wrap up. Until then, more of Yah, less of us. Shabbat Shalom, Mishpachah.
I wake up and pray and take life as it comes, one step at a time. Less worries, less cares, 'cause I know that I'm the